Morning everyone, welcome to Compliance Over Coffee. This morning a little change from our document series, just for something different to break it up. And this morning I wanted to talk to you about something that has only recently come to light for me, and something that I hadn't realised in all of the years that I've been looking into compliance and regulations and so on and so forth, and that's about the Ombudsman. And when I've been asked about Ombudsman before, I've always said, I'm asked what the difference is, blah, blah, blah. The TPO is the original Ombudsman and not-for-profit. PRS are run by property professionals and for-profit. Go and have a look at the websites and pick and choose for yourselves. And that was how I'd always said it. Now, as some of you know, I do support investors who feel aggrieved by the services provided by sourcing agents, shall we say. And I support them in taking a complaint to the Ombudsman. Morning, Natalie, how are you? And I've had one recently where I've been supporting an investor who was dealing with a sourcing agent, a well-known one. They were registered with an Ombudsman, the PRS, and we put the formal complaint together. It was submitted after failing to get a acceptable response for the investor from the sourcing agent. It was submitted to the PRS. They said that they were dealing with it and looking into it. And about a week ago, the PRS submitted a report back to the investor stating what their thoughts were and recommendations around the complaint. And the investor came back to me and said, read this, Tina, and let me know what your thoughts are. And so I read through it and I was astounded by what was said. And basically what was said was that the investor in question had already had or was going to get a written apology from the sourcing agent. Bear in mind that this person, in their opinion, was owed in the region of £7,000. But that as far as other complaints were concerned, they weren't in the remit of the Ombudsman, because this particular Ombudsman, hey Trish, how are you doing? This particular Ombudsman doesn't deal with anything other than consumers. Now, consumers are individuals. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound right. Morning, Dan, how are you doing? I thought, that's weird. I'm going to look into this. I've got to look into this. This can't be right. So I told the investor to hang fire and let me do some digging. And I like doing digging and researching and stuff like that. I love doing that. So I have my legal contacts over at the TPO, the Property Ombudsman. And I took snippets out of the response, sent them over and said, what are your feelings on this? Have you any idea why they refused to deal with it? Because this investor purchased the deals through the limited company, because she's an investor and has a limited company. And my legal contact from the Ombudsman came back and said, we wouldn't have a problem with this because we have a clause in our terms of business, if you like, that although we are set up as a consumer governing agency, we have the clause states that we will deal with small businesses for claims if it's a business, a charity or a trust and their provable turnover is less than £3 million. So the Property Ombudsman have coverage for this scenario for someone purchasing using a company rather than in their own name and then wanting to make a complaint because they feel that they've had wrong done to them. I went to PRS and emailed them and asked for clarity, and it came back very firmly and very clearly that they will only deal with consumer complaints, not business to business. So let me make this clear for you, as sources and especially investors. If your letting agent, your estate agent, your management agent, your sourcing agent are registered with PRS, Property Redress Scheme, and you have purchased or you work with them and acquire their services via your company, if you are unhappy, PRS won't deal with it. Simple as. They won't deal with it. Because it's not in their remit. However, the property ombudsman will. So for me going forward, when I talk to sources now and sources ask me about the differences between the ombudsman, I'm going to make my feelings incredibly clear that as a sourcing agent, in order to provide that protection that an ombudsman should provide for your clients, you should be registering with the property ombudsman. Because if you register with property redress scheme, it's now very, very clear that, you comment please guys if you feel strongly the other way about this, but this is how I feel about it, and I'm telling you how I feel about this. One, I think you would be unprofessional knowing this to register with PRS just because it's cheaper and you can get away without proving your damned insurance. Do we want professionalism or don't we? And also, for your investors that you're going to be working with, are you going to be honest with them and say, if you're working with me through a limited company, my redress scheme won't deal with you? Because that honestly is how it is. And that's for estate agents and lettings agents. Now, for me, I think the vast majority of investors, buyers, people that we would work with, and landlords in this country will probably have at least part, if not whole, of their portfolio under a limited company holding and work with the landlord, any estate agent in the same remit. If you do that, then PRS don't consider you to be a consumer and won't work with you for a complaint. And I found that utterly astounding. I really do. Utterly astounding. So from now on going forward, I make no apologies for saying I believe that you should be registering as a sourcing agent with the property ombudsman because they will cover small businesses, although I don't think a small business has a turnover of 3 million, but that's what's in their terms of use. Register with the TPO because they will protect limited companies, trusts and charities with a turnover provable of less than 3 million. They have got it covered, guys. But the PRS just don't. It's consumer only, which for me, they're saying they'll cover landlords, tenants and buyers. But if you're a buyer, we may call our clients buyers and not investors, but if they're buying through a limited company, even if they do it through an estate agent, they've got no cover. If the landlord is working with a lettings agent and working with them and obtaining their services through a limited company, they've got no cover with PRS. And for me, this just isn't made clear at all, anywhere at all, unless you go digging for it or you specifically ask the question. And the key thing for you investors now is I'm adding that to my list of key factors to ask, because for me it's incredibly important. Because if you as an investor are going to a sourcing agent and they're a member of PRS, then if you're working with a sourcing agent, a letting agent or an estate agent, even a management agent, and you're a limited company obtaining their services, they won't cover you. So it's a newbie thing. It's an interesting topic. As you can tell, it's really annoyed me in some ways because I don't think it's right. I think if the ombudsman are there, then they should be protecting everyone that's using the services. But that's my opinion for now, although I will be putting that point forward very, very strongly. Don't worry, but I will be. But for now, this is how it is, and I think that everyone should know about this because... Morning, Danny, how are you doing? This is really, really serious as far as a complaint is concerned, because all of that, the investor that I'm working with, she's got an apology for £7,000 loss. The only option now is small claims court, and for me that's just nuts. It's just absolutely nuts, but it is as it is at the moment. So I wanted you guys to know about it, and I know that quite a few of you will be registered with PRS. Strongly, if I were in that position, the way that I feel about my business and professionalism, I would definitely be switching. I absolutely would be. And I can only give you my opinion on this. You guys are going to have to make up your own opinions on it, but I agree with Natalie. I think it's madness. I think it's nuts. I mean, you work out with all the complaints that come in, how many must they be able to kick out of the door immediately because it's through a company and they can just ignore it? What's the point? Tenants, I guess, because I doubt very much they're renting, although some tenants may do, some larger companies may rent under a limited company, that's about it. People who personally buy the houses for themselves will be covered. But apart from that, it's I agree, Natalie. I think it's very naughty because if you go and look at the website, there's no indication of that. There isn't, and I hadn't come across that before. As I said, the only reason that I know this is because of this complaint that I helped the investor submit and the response that came back, and I just couldn't believe it, so I decided to investigate. And I got the final response from PRS yesterday. No, we don't deal with business to business. It has to be consumer to business, which means if the buyer or the landlord that's obtaining services is operating and obtaining those services through a limited company, the PRS will not cover and protect you. That is the bottom line of it. So that is compliance over coffee for this morning. I will be back again on Thursday. I'll have to think of another really good topic for Thursday because I think this has been a really good topic. It's difficult for me now after 3.5 years, guys, to come up with new topics. We tend to cover some of the same things. So if you've got topics that you want me to cover, I haven't said this for a while, please bob the question underneath the thread. Because otherwise I'm thinking about dropping down to once a week for compliance over coffee because I'm struggling coming up with new topics and interesting ways of putting them across for you. So that's it for this morning. Thanks for watching. I will be back on Thursday. In the meantime, enjoy Tuesday and Wednesday. It's absolutely freezing here in the north. Absolutely freezing. We've got a light covering of snow, but nothing more. I'm going to have a cardigan wrapped around me all day for working. Stay safe where you guys are, and I'll be back again on Thursday. Bye for now.